Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to our Woody Allen retrospective right here on PlanetTyro.com. I'm your host, Donald Wonder, and I'm joined once again by the lovely, the wonderful, the Mr. Fantastic Simon Rad.
Wow, that's a lot of names to live up to, but welcome everybody.
If you missed our previous recording, we actually covered the Russian literature satire romp 1975's Love and Death. All you non-YouTube listeners, you can catch us on our podcast. Obviously, the links will be in the description. And there's also a long playlist that we covered all the previous Woody Allen movies, all the future ones. We're doing this from 2017 until we catch up on all the movies. And guys, I'm going to make this very easy for you. Whether you're listening to this on YouTube or the podcast, whatever, you can just use the hashtag WoodyAllenRetro and you'll find it. You can even just go to Google, put in Woody Allen Retro. You'll find links to all of our discussions. I made it so easy for you guys, so it's going to be great. And also, guys, we do prefer that we don't want to spoil the movie that we're about to talk about. If you've already seen the movie, stay tuned to the conversation. But if not, we would prefer you go ahead, watch the movie, then come back to listen to our discussion. And with all that out of the way, we're going to move on to our next movie. So, Simon, if you don't mind doing us the honors and telling us what we're talking about today.
Today, we're going to switch it up a bit with a movie that stars Woody Allen, but was not written or directed by him. It's the movie called The Front from 1976. The story basically follows the adventures of Howard Prince, played by Woody Allen, set in 1953 at the height of the McCarthy era. Howard gets intertwined in a scheme to help out his friend and later on some of his friends' friends who have been blacklisted from writing for television. This was a very prominent thing during the era about the communist craze during the Cold War.
Yeah.
People were constantly blacklisted and interrogated by the government. They would constantly have hearings where they would order you in and would throw the book at you if you refused to cooperate or you didn't answer questions properly or in the right fashion. And usually what it came down to that they wanted you to name people. And a lot of people abused this. They would name some of their colleagues at the workplace or some people they didn't like to screw with them. And also a lot of innocent people, a lot of people who just had very mild political views, which were then extremified in the 50s to be branded as extreme communists or extreme left-wing, were outcasted and forbidden from work. So this is what Woody Allen's friends in the movie deal with. And ironically, it's very important to mention is that the movie was made by people, including the director and the writers, who were themselves blacklisted back in the day. So this is a very authentic story and something that they may have not wanted to exactly touch upon and probably wasn't the easiest movie to make. Hence the reason Woody Allen, who at this point is an established filmmaker who kind of, does whatever he wants and is quite free to tackle edgy projects, was chosen as the lead. The rest of the movie plays out as you expect. Woody Allen's character is similar to his persona from the previous films. He's down on his luck. He's a bit of a loner, but he's a smart, witty guy with a couple of funny jokes here and there. This situation helps put his name on other people's work and does become a successful television writer, gain some fame and some money, and eventually get romantically involved. Then later on, the plot of the movie thickens when more people get blacklisted or potentially get put on a watch list by the government to be called into hearings, which complicates his life considering he's doing something illegal and he has this loyalty to his friends, but he also tries to protect the newfound fame and fortune he acquired through the scheme.
Yeah, that's enough. We don't want to give any more. You've given basically the whole thing anyway, so
I tried to simplify it as much as possible. I mean, it's a weird movie because it's comedic, but it's also about quite a serious topic that is very important historically and has hurt a lot of people deeply, a lot of American families. So I wanted to give a broad spectrum of context, but the movie, especially when it starts, it's quite lighthearted.
Let me start by saying that one thing I should stop saying in this retrospective, because most of the times I'm saying, the next movie is one of my favorites, Simon, and I remember it being great. And this was
you
another
do say
one.
that a lot.
I said that last week as well. The next one's one of my favorites, The Front. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it so much. For the record, after this one, I'm going to stop saying that, because this is a movie I actually didn't like after rewatching it. And it's not a bad movie. There's a difference between I didn't like it, not because it wasn't filmed or anything like that. I didn't like it because the way the subject matter was handled. Now, as you went on and said in great detail, this is a time in Hollywood, in cinema, that is very important. The blacklist, the Cold War, the government going crazy and ruining people's lives. Now, the first time I watched it, I remember this being a breakaway from Woody Allen being a super slapsticky comedy guy into a bit of more serious role. And he is more serious now than he was before. Still comedic, and even the comedy he brings to the movie isn't goofy. He's just well-spoken, well-witted, and his situation is more comical than him, in my personal opinion.
It's mostly quips. He has funny quips throughout the film.
He does, and the thing that bothers me about the movie is that the situation is quite serious, and Woody Allen is the only comical character in the movie, and he is very unlikable in this movie. When he starts off, he's a cashier, and you can tell that he's made some bets, he's made some gambles, he owes people money. So when he does this favor for a friend, I will be honest and say he genuinely does it to help his friend. There's a little benefit to him. As the movie goes on, he just progressively becomes more, used to the riches, more greedy, and just the film does an interesting job of making him comedic in that way, where now he can buy everything he wants, now he gets a woman he wants, and that's kind of funny that everyone else in the movie for the most part is suffering. The actors he's working with, the people that he works in the studio with, everyone's talking about how serious the situation is, while Woody Allen's the one kind of enjoying the favors, and he's reluctant to go on the good side of things because my lifestyle, why I'll do that. So, and I know Woody Allen reading the script must have thought, you know what, this is so ironic. I get to play a character who's not a writer, who doesn't know anything about writing. So for him, I could see this being appealing to him. But it's just, I just found it distasteful. And let me bring a little side note. One thing I came away from this movie thinking is that, you know what, I wish they did a series version of this movie. We'll get to Trumbo later, but I wish they did a series version of this movie and just played it real. And ironically, in my research, I actually found out that Columbia Pictures passed on a version of this movie that was serious, and it was Woody Allen bringing his comedic value. That was the reason why they greenlit the movie. Before that, they didn't want a serious version of this movie because I don't know if it was too close to the time, if things were too touchy. They were like, this blacklist stuff, it's not. Nobody wants to watch that. But as soon as Woody Allen came along, they greenlit the movie.
You know what? I'm sorry, but I'm not shocked at that at all, because when the movie opens up, it's quite weird. You can tell that they're actively trying to present this as a more serious Woody Allen movie, but already his character is doing some funny things in the background, and within the first dialogue session, the whole plot of the movie is set up about, I'm in this pickle, I'm blacklisted, I can't work, I can't earn money. And Woody Allen's character is given these funny lines that nobody else really reacts to, as just for the audience. And throughout the film, I always felt that was kind of awkward because there was no genuine payoff. Like the other actors just continued the dialogue. It was presented as, oh, here's a funny quip, here's a joke, to give you a chuckle or laugh. But let's get back to the serious stuff. And even Woody Allen himself, I think he's good in the movie, and I really enjoyed seeing him in the more dramatic aspects.
Sure.
Like when one of his colleagues is threatened to basically get blacklisted if he doesn't cooperate, and we kind of see this the falling down of this iconic actor. You know, it's one of the greats being tossed off the throne.
You're talking about the actor, or in the movie, the character's called Hecky Brown, and the actor, the real life actor, is called Zero Mostel. That's a really cool name, by the way, Zero Mostel.
Yeah, exactly. He had probably the darkest character arc out of everybody here.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed when those scenes got dark and serious. I really enjoyed Woody Allen. I think he looked genuinely concerned and genuinely, you know, just confused of being stuck in this situation where he can't talk about anything. He doesn't know where he falls in terms of, you know, his conscience and what he can do.
He looks like, no, I disagree with that. He looks like he's like, God damn, man, why are these people making me feel guilty? He even said it so many times that, guys, come on, you're not seeing it right. You know, stop messing around with my...
Yeah, but he can't make up his mind. And I just think he acted it well. I think his
acting was fine. His character, I found distasteful. I just thought, this guy's getting on there's even the highest point where he just went too far was near the end of the movie. He's, like you said, he's got like, he's getting the script for like 6 different people. There's a point they give him a script, he's like, you know what, do this again, you know, it's not looking good on me, you know, you need to write this again. And he knows nothing about scripts. I'm like, that's the height of his greed, and the guy actually pulls him across the table to strangle him.
I think we have a disagreement here. I think we have a fundamental disagreement, because I think that scene was supposed to highlight that, you know, this guy had hidden potential his life, you know, and this situation is actually bringing it out of him that he would be a good showrunner. Like, if he was running the show, he could arrange these writers to, you know, bring in really good material and push them to the best.
Where did you get that from?
I think because he was saying, like, you know, I've been reading up all this stuff in libraries, and they added in these scenes to show that he's actually educating himself on the subject matter.
That's
and
garbage.
He was
no. He actually says it makes me. He actually says it makes me look bad. He actually says when these scripts are, it makes me look bad. That's what he says.
Yeah, because he has a reputation at that point. You know, he's like, I know you can do better. It's like a coach telling you, I know you can.
He didn't even.
It's like a coach, you know, pushing you, like, I know you can do better. I just thought, you know, this may be one of the faults of the movie, that for most people, including yourself, you know, it doesn't really work. Like, I felt like they actively tried to make his character more likable by showing him going to the library, you know, brushing up on his literature, getting more...
Brushing up on his literature? He went to the library just to meet his ex-girlfriend who dumped him.
No, in the previous scene. Remember, there was a scene where he was like, you know, show me the greats. And it was like, he was almost like getting a recipe. It was like, give me 2 Dostoevsky, 2 Hemingway, and that's it for today, you know? That sounds
like a joke for the audience.
Yeah, that
even rhymes.
It was a jokey scene, but yeah, that was it. They were establishing that he's trying to learn a little bit about what he's doing.
I completely disagree. I honestly think they played up his whole point of, you know, using his friends for laughs. It could have been funny if those guys suffering wasn't real. That's what bottom like. And and to be honest with you, he's manipulating his girlfriend as well because he's not being real. And that whole thing, I thought that would bother you the most because, you know, he lied to her for most of the movie. And at the end, when he comes clean, it's kind of forced. He didn't have to, but you don't really care about him. And to be honest with you, through to the very end of the movie, he was reluctant to help. Even at the end, where the scene where he's at the meeting, at the gathering, and they're like, just answer. He drags it out for so long. And then it just ends on a cool note. It's like a line he wrote for himself just to make himself sound cool, which is my favorite line of the movie. But it's like he was trapped. They had him on something else anyway, on this gambling thing, and he was like, fuck it, fuck you guys, I'm out. And then you got arrested. So look, my whole problem. I'll summarize this. My whole problem with the movie is I don't think it works as a comedy. They tried to infuse comedy. Well, Columbia wanted a comedy version of this serious topic. I don't think it works. The comedy element just doesn't really work for me. Woody Allen, the acting's fine. The directing, I'll get to in a minute, but I just think Columbia Pictures took Woody Allen because he's a name to make it lighter, to make the subject matter lighter. That he's the only one that's light, and he's dubious. He's not a likable character. Everyone else is suffering. And I just thought, this isn't funny. This really isn't funny. And at the end, him being the spotlight of this whole thing is weird. It's about the blacklist, but then we're focusing on the character who can't write, who uses everyone for its own gains, and at the end just says "fuck you." It's a weird, like, when I look at it in retrospect, I'm like, this is the focal character. It's like they just use him to tell the narrative, but he doesn't serve the purpose of the blacklist at all. He's a complete outsider. He's completely unlikable, and I came away from the movie just like, whatever. I feel sorry for everyone else. Woody Allen gets arrested. I don't feel sorry for him because he lied anyway, and he's greedy. And I don't like the government, and I like the true facts of the movie. I understand the politics of the movie in real life, what they wanted. I don't think this movie ages well, and in that respect, I'm so glad that another movie was made more recently called Trumbo, which is a great example of how you can make the dire situation comedic, because that movie is what this movie basically is. It's a superior version of this movie, because they have those comedic elements in that movie, but everything that happens is real and serious. And again,
that's based on a real person as well.
Yeah, exactly. And Woody Allen's character is completely fake. It's a completely made up character. So it's really weird. I think, honestly, I didn't like the movie because I just didn't like the message. And ultimately, I just think this is a perfect example of execs at the time just wanting what they want and not really caring about the storyline. And, that's just me personally. And I just want to say, for the record, I actually thought this movie was great in my memory, but watching it now, I didn't like it. So this is a weird one for me. That's just how I feel about it, though.
You highlighted a bunch of faults with this movie for me, like just the way you summarize it, because like even with the girlfriend, I thought that the intention, regardless of the execution, the intention was to highlight that he's in a conundrum, like he's torn between two options, like because he was very lonely in the beginning, and that was supposed to make you sympathize with him a little bit and appreciate that he's finally found happiness, but it's built on a lie. And if he comes clean, he's risking losing everything. But at the same time, the flip side argument is like, does she really like him for himself, or does she like him for his name? If he comes clean, does she stick with him, or does she leave? And if she leaves, is it just like, well, you never really liked me now, did you? You just like the idea of who I am, and what that made you of going out with such a respected writer or such a famous person, or the spotlight or anything. So I understand the story mechanics and the emotional themes they were playing around with, but the movie wasn't hitting strides. It wasn't like one scene after the other I was like, that was great, that was a great moment, that was a great moment. The way you spoke about it just now kind of highlighted to me that I don't think everything really falls in place or works that effectively. A lot of people don't get these elements, and it doesn't translate well. Like you said, for you it didn't age well when you saw it out of context, probably, for the first time, not knowing much about the background.
I didn't. That's exactly right. I appreciated it more then because I didn't know anything about the blacklist. So it was like, wow, this is really interesting. And Woody Allen liked him. So first time back then it was cool. But now knowing more about the politics and stuff like that, and after seeing Trumbo as well, I'm like, watching it again, wait a minute, this seems a little bit, so yeah, you're right on that.
And I think, that was probably what was going on at the time with the studio being reluctant to make this, because the McCarthy era is like it's a huge mess up in terms of government function. And I personally know people whose families went through insane things because of it. And it's a terrible dark spot in our history. I mean, we have many, but this was, this is really the country turning inside out. So even in the 70s, something being made that predominantly highlights the injustice and the misconduct and the abuse and to a certain level corruption, whether it be ideological corruption or corruption by power, that was still considered a dangerous topic. So I understand why they want to make it a comedy and lighten it up.
Sure, yeah, so do I. I agree with that, yeah.
And I think this probably qualifies as, at the time, as one of the good movies of the year. You would walk in and say, okay, at least somebody made a movie about this topic.
Yes.
It was interesting to hear these experiences translated to the big screen by people who went through it firsthand. But ultimately, it wasn't the best thing. It wasn't the best movie. It was interesting to watch. wasn't the ending because he swears in it, like groundbreaking? Wasn't that one of the first movies, mainstream movies that did that? You know?
Yes, that's a great point, and it's one of Woody Allen's most memorable endings. And again, seeing it in context this time, I was very disappointed because I remember him taking a stand. Jim Carrey made that movie called The Majestic. I think it touched on that a little bit as well. And that scene where Jim Carrey's up against the panel as well, that has a better kind of back and forth with them. Woody Allen in that whole scene, he just doesn't answer. He dilly-dallies, he puts off questions, and they just try to nail him on something, and he just, comes up with a really cool line and walks out. It's just now seeing it's like, I don't want to say it's out of character, but they try to make him like a hero at the end, but I'm like, you didn't do anything. So, but it doesn't matter what I say because the movie was nominated for an Oscar. And nominated for a Golden Globe. It was nominated for an Oscar for the script, and I think the guy who played the actor who had the Bad Times this movie, he was nominated for a BAFTA as well. This won a lot of awards, and I don't want to say something too negative by saying this. I think a lot of it has got to do with the subject matter alone. Being a movie about the blacklist, and the actors are good. Actually, the actors are very good on a whole. The cast is good. Even Woody Allen, the character I don't like, and he's the focal point. And there's so much things going on, which I will say the movie does not shy away from all the stuff going on. But ironically, let's get to the fan reception because the scores on IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes are in the 7s. Now, I was reading a lot of reviews from critics and fans, and actually the biggest criticism, people saying that this movie was a simplification of the situation. Again, they did focus on Woody Allen's character a bit too much, and actually a lot of cinemaphiles don't like this movie because they just feel like it deserved the dramatized version that comes, with Trumbo, a bit more serious. And again, they love Woody Allen, but they just feel like I said before, they could see there was some kind of compromise to turn this into something it probably shouldn't have been. But generally, it's still well received. People like the acting like us, and it's still a favorite for a lot of people. One thing I didn't mention is I don't think the directing of this movie is anything special. And actually, I think some of the editing was a bit sloppy. There's some scenes that could have been cut. I don't mean cut completely, just some scenes go on too long where it feels like the actors have walked off and the camera's still rolling. It's like, when you meant to cut to the next scene there, it's happened like 4 or 5 times. People could have made the director himself, I forgot his name, you mentioned it before, he never did anything of super note. So, this is one of his biggest known films. He passed away in 1990 as well. So not shitting on the director or anything, but it would have been interesting if Woody Allen directed this movie, but maybe he would have made it too slapstick. I don't know. Maybe this would have been more one of his drama movies, but either way, it's a good movie in a sense. I just don't like it because I just think the subject matter should have been taken more seriously, but we got Trumbo in the future anyway, so, someone agreed with me.
Hey, I think you nailed it like that. Like, the big part of this is the movie aging as it did the past couple of decades is the need for dramatization and the subject matter being tackled better, especially most recently with Trumbo. That was like one of my favorite movies, that year. Yeah. And it really takes a lot out of this. But at the same time, when people scream for dramatization, remember this was made in like 76. I mean, sure. Drama in 76 was drama. A lot of crying, a lot of dragged out scenes, a lot of emotion. I mean, unless 2 names were attached to this, either Francis Ford Coppola or Sidney Lumet, this would not be made into a drama because those are the only 2 heavyweights at the time who could carry it.
Let's play devil's advocate. Take Woody Allen out of this movie. How does this movie play without Woody Allen?
You would get Sidney Lumet and Al Pacino, and maybe you get a good movie. I don't know, or get Coppola and Al Pacino, but both of them were doing different things. I think Coppola was like already knee deep in Apocalypse Now, maybe, and I think Sidney Lumet, he already did Dog Day Afternoon, that was 75, so maybe Network. Not quite sure, but basically, he was doing that work, in 76, which again, epic movie, foreshadows Fox News. Amazing. So, but enough said. I mean, it's a tough choice. You don't want it to be an over-dramatized movie. There's very few people around who have the name pulled to tackle such a controversial subject, because even in the 70s, one of the big, conservative narratives is the government's cool, we don't want big government, but at the same time, we don't want these hippies, these anarchists, these anti-government people. So it's kind of like, you don't want big government, but you don't want a revolution either. So somebody highlighting what quote-unquote conservative thinking did in the past. Again, needless to say, controversial. So, like I said, if people watch Trumbo first, this movie won't be as good. If you don't know anything about the subject matter and you enjoy Woody Allen, you want to see him switch it up a bit, even though his comedy is the weakest part of this movie, but his serious acting is one of the best parts, along with a good supporting cast. Give it a go. It's not the greatest movie. The reception fits it. It got a lot of awards just for tackling the subject matter and having a good cast, but it's not the best movie released that year or the best movie of the decade. It's not this big epic masterpiece, but that will come in our next episode. So,
well, you said it, Simon. And on that note, guys, if you've watched this movie or you completely agree or disagree with us, let us know what your thoughts are. Leave a comment in the comment section down below, whether you're on YouTube or on the podcast. Leave us an iTunes review as well. And as Simon alluded to, on our next recording, we get to the title that took Woody Allen from the big screen into the big screen in the universe, into the stratosphere. This movie completely put Woody Allen out there. It's a fan favorite. It's a movie favorite. It's in so many top 10 lists. Yes, we're talking about Annie Hall, guys. We're going to get to it. I don't know how long that review is going to be, and I'm going to rewatch the movie. It is one of my favorite Woody Allen movies of all time, but let's just see with my critical new brain if it's going to change or what I can dig out. How we're going to dissect this, Simon. I'm really interested to see what we're going to come with on the next recording.
Cool. You want to give us your favorite line of the movie?
I already said what it was. And even though it was...
You fucked up the quote, though. So...
I just don't like the context in it. It is my quote of the movie. It's one of the most memorable quotes in Woody Allen's retrospective. Woody Allen gets up after that little... what do we want to call it? The meeting of the minds with the government. And he says...
The interrogation.
The interrogation. He goes, fellas... I don't recognize the right of this committee to be asking these kinds of questions. Then he walks behind them, nearly out the door, turns around and says, and furthermore, you can all go fuck yourselves.
That is a great line.
It's a really great line. It's delivered really coolly, but, it's the kind of line you give after you stand up for the rights of the people, your peers, and he never did that. He just waffles, going, shouldn't I?
Yeah, but you're supposed to put yourself in his shoes, and it's the 50s. Earning such a nice salary in the 50s wasn't common. So, especially for somebody who comes from his background, so he had a lot to lose. He had it made, and it was a big sacrifice.
Whatever. Anyway, as we said, the next Woody Allen movie, boy, the quotes, there's just too many quotes. It's actually going to be interesting to find out what Simon's favorite quote of the next movie is going to be. So
you already know that because I always quote it.
Oh yeah, well that's a long. You know what? I might even put that as a clip there since you love it so much. I think
that's not even a quote. That's a speech.
So anyway, guys, the video's been long enough. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you like us on YouTube. Don't forget to leave a comment, as I said before. And if you're on YouTube, you can see those annotations on the screen for all the other stuff we do on Planet Tyro. Simon, thank you for joining me on this one as usual.
Honestly, just go fuck yourself.
You're talking to me, guys, not you guys. We'll see you on the next one, guys. Thanks for listening.
Bye.